Get ready to feel
the power.
Well, that's Colin Crandall over there. Myself, Adam Roorda, with another episode of MMA Power Hour. And you don't see Colin right now.
Yes,
I'm
curious.
going to go ahead and fix that. I wonder what's going on. You can hear him. I'm playing some magic tricks.
That is curious. Yeah, while Dr. Adam Roorda is doing that, that was funny because normally what I see on the monitor is what you guys see, at least on one of our monitors. And I see Adam, but I'm like invisible. You see the microphone hanging over the...
That's so funny.
I'm glad he caught that, because if you hadn't caught that, Doc, I was waiting for the chance to jump in and say, I don't see myself there. It looks like a chair with a microphone. But anyway, this is your old buddy Colin Crandall here coming at you. There we go. Now we're talking. Man, oh man, I'll tell you what.
Everybody's like,
it's amazing. I think I might have looked better as the microphone over the chair, but that's okay. What the heck? I'm a work in progress. Sorry. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen here, welcome to the MMA Power Hour. Lots of fun, hijinks, great information and entertainment. We are a full spectrum MMA television program, fully optimized, and we're like full of everything that some of you like and some of you don't like, but we're happy to be here and a great show in store. Dr. Adam Roorda, I'm excited to talk to a guest here. I think it should be a fun one, don't you?
Absolutely. We've got 3 different guests coming up. One real quick, actually, just on time. We were able to make this happen for you out there. Well, we're getting teed up and ready to go here. Make sure to go on over to our social media. It's at MMA Power Hour. Give us all the likes, loves, comments, shares, everything you can do to help get word out about this show. We appreciate it every week and every day. You guys are the best. Yes. And while you also have the opportunity to make sure to open up a new window on your desktop and go over to mmaph.nessashemp.com. Get yourself some full spectrum hemp oil. It is the best on the market. It is a cold pressed CBDA product. In fact, it's one of a kind, the best formula out there. I've been using it for a while. I know Colin has as well, and it just really does wonders for pain management, psychological, just balancing. It really works. And I stand by it 100%.
Absolutely. It can really help wean you off of painkillers. I'm not saying it's going to take you from having a narcotic, full spectrum addiction immediately to not. But if you're taking, ibuprofen or naproxen and other things a lot, this really can help you get off that and get the relief in a much more natural and positive way. So I definitely recommend the great product that is indeed Nessa's Hemp. Really, really good stuff.
Absolutely. So Colin, we've got some crazy fights going on this week.
Yes.
Starting out with PFL.
And then I think
actually before that we've got one.
That's right. You're right. In fact, why we're on Tuesdays, you guys may be curious after being on Wednesdays.
We don't have a one this week.
Is that even though there's not a one this week, normally there's one championship on Wednesday, PFL on Thursday, Bellator on Friday, UFC on Saturday. And we figured, even though we know you guys like us or some of you love us, that if it's us against a major MMA promotion live event, maybe we might not win. So we figured that we'll be here for you on Tuesday, so that way we can kick off a great week and let you know our thoughts on all of these great events.
100%. So let's go ahead and get into our first guest here. I believe right on time, normal time?
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Skype dance.
Hello there, Cindy. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi there. All we need you to do is get that video button, and then I will give you a proper introduction. We are live on the air now, and so happy to talk to you. And so there you go, right there. Excellent. Cindy, let me give you the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to have this guest on the show for the first time. A couple months ago, we had her good friend Misha Tate on, and this is a fighter that I've been a fan of for many years. They call her the Battle Cat, PFL lightweight Cindy Dandois. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Hi. Good to see you guys.
You too. You too. I've been a fan of yours for a good while. I remember your very first fight when you fought Marloes Coenen. I was a fan of hers for many years. Let me ask you, how did they make that amazing fight, a woman in her MMA debut against a woman who I think had 8 or 10 fights like Marloes Coenen? How did that happen, and what was your feeling going into that fight? Because I'm sure you were an underdog.
Well, I trained that time 4 months.
Wow.
And yeah, my brother actually came in. He was like, "Hey, you can fight. We were gonna I fight for you." And because I didn't do any amateur fights, so he was like, "Yeah, after you can go back to amateur." Promised me because I didn't have any fight.
Right.
And I didn't really know, so I was like, "Okay, let's do it." Turned out well.
Yep, it did turn out well. That was amazing. Your judo came in handy there. You looked really good. It was a surprise. I think right away you made a strong impression because Marloes had many good wins before that and many good wins after that. So that was really impressive after 4 months of training. And I would imagine after that success, right away you felt like MMA was going to be a good career for you, or were you not so sure even then?
No, I loved it. I loved every piece of it. I still do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this for so many years. Yeah, I just fell in love with the sport.
Excellent. And you're from Belgium. I don't think there's anyone else from Belgium that fights for a major MMA organization, or is there?
Yeah, now it starts. We have Nikayev in Bellator, and another girl, Griet Eekhout, also fought once in Bellator. But mostly we don't have so many people around on big organizations. Although we had Tarek Safedin in UFC.
Okay. And now when you started, you were the first, obviously. Have the laws changed in Belgium at all? Is MMA legal, or how does it work over there?
No, MMA is legal, but it's not very popular. Our government doesn't really support it, and I get more wins.
Oh, it looks like you froze up there on the Skype, Cindy. Okay. Let's see if we can. Okay, Cindy, I'm sorry. It looks like your Skype froze there. Repeat that last part, please.
MMA is legal, but we can have cards and we can have fights in Belgium, but it's not very popular. Like our government doesn't support it.
Interesting. Okay. Has it become any more popular over the last 10 or 12 years? Are we making progress there or not really?
Yeah. Popularity, yes, because amongst the people, but our government is not really helpful. That's the point. Like the people like it and they follow it and they support it mostly, except the elderly. But our government isn't supportive. But yes, amongst the youth, it is getting more popular for sure.
Very cool. And now I read, speaking about that first MMA fight of your career against Marloes Koenen, I read that you began your MMA training in Holland. Is that correct?
No, I trained that time at my brother's gym, but because there weren't many good gyms in Belgium that time, I drove to Holland to train with Api Echtold and with Gegard Mousasi that time. That's a long time ago.
Yes.
Yes. So I trained in Holland and with Bert Kops too, in Holland and in Belgium.
Very, very cool. Gegard, really talented guy. Did you have good experience training with him?
Yeah, we didn't train much together, but yeah, in the same gym.
Very cool. And then Misha Tate, I didn't know this, but the reason how the two of you were introduced was you were supposed to fight several years ago, and it didn't materialize, and then somehow you became friends from that. How did that work out?
So I was supposed to fight her, but Belgium and visas sometimes is very difficult, so my visa didn't get sorted out at the time. So it didn't happen. And then a few years later, she texted me on Facebook because she had a fight against Roorda coming up. And I have a very strong judo base, so that's why she flew me over, and we became like best of friends.
Very cool. Did you spend any time training with her for a year or for a few months, or what was your experience as far as training in the United States?
Yeah, we've been training a lot together. And when I'm in Vegas, I trained in Couture. But we also went to Thailand together and trained there. And when we have time, we try to meet each other. Like also Misha came to Spokane a few days and we trained here a little too. So that's nice.
Absolutely. So I know that you had some opportunities at bantamweight, but it always seemed to me like that's a very low weight for you and a difficult, right?
Yes, I died 20 deaths every time I had to make it.
Yeah.
It was... It's very bad on my body. I always have injuries when I cut to bantamweight. I did it because I just want to fight, you know. So I push my body in these terrible limits, but it's not good for me. I think 145 is my best weight. I'm healthy there, and I have no cuts, like no injuries. That's nice. And 155 is also good for me because then I absolutely like no cuts, and I'm healthy here. And okay, it's a little heavier, but it's fine. I prefer to fight healthy and good than to cut to 135.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, why do you think it's taking so many years for some of these other promotions to promote 145 or to even consider 155? I've always been a big fan of women's, as you can tell by how many years I've watched your career, and then Marloes before you. So I've always been a big fan, and I've never understood why we can't see more organizations have women's lightweight, even women's welterweight, even women's middleweight fights. Why do you think this is so difficult to have promotions embrace, and do you think this will change in the near future?
I for sure hope it will change because I believe there are more girls in the world who are a little heavier than very light, except in Asia, of course.
Right.
But as long, you know, weight cuts are supported. If like now they make earlier weighing, so people will cut more and more and more, and then it's easy to like be like, oh, they have to make this weight because they can do a weight cut, you know. I think as soon as they know like the weight cuts are like crazy, like in 1FC, and you aren't allowed to cut that much anymore, they will have to have bigger weight classes, and people will fight at a healthier weight.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest problem, and also because all the girls like are pushing their body to make 145 because they go with it, and they don't want to like give in on like, okay, maybe I should fight a higher weight. There aren't enough girls in 155 to make like really good divisions. I think PFL does a great job there promoting a bigger girl weight class, and Kayla, for example, she fought in a bigger weight class in judo. In judo, it's normal.
Yes.
I think under 70 kilo is like very stacked.
Yep, and I believe it. So yeah, so there'd be a lot of girls from judo that could come.
So it makes sense to have a higher weight class, but I think people still have to like, you know, the weight cutting is the biggest problem. I think that how they support that. Oh, weighing the day before, just let's kill yourself to make weight. That's not it's not very healthy. I think if people should have to weigh in on the same day, a lot of girls will have to go up in weight.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that's one of the problems in the world of MMA today. I remember that weigh-in, maybe perhaps you saw like 2 months ago in the UFC, they had the girl from Russia, Yulia Storolienko or something, and she weighs, she falls down in the beginning. They let her sit down and they bring her back, and then she falls down again on the ground.
It happens too much.
Yeah.
It happens too. How many like, you know, I'm a big fan of Invicta, but how many times do girls miss weight there?
Yeah.
How many? Because our body, we are women, we have our periods, we keep our water differently than men, but still they expect the same weight cuts from us.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, and a lot of girls miss weight in Invicta, and I think that is a point where something will have to change. I feel I never missed weight, but I had to tell myself to make 135.
Yeah, so without a doubt.
I'm all for
changing. I would agree. And I think also it's too bad that 145 wasn't available earlier, because I know you would have had some great fights. Not that you didn't, because of course you did, but I think it would have been so much better had 145 been available sooner. But speaking about a higher weight, you have an amazing fight coming up. For people that don't know, we are talking about June 25th. Is it the 25th or is it the 24th, Cindy? Because it's a Thursday, right?
Yes, 25th.
25th. Okay, so June 25th in the PFL against Kayla Harrison. This is a huge matchup, and I'm so excited about this because I think clearly you will present the greatest challenge to Kayla Harrison. You both have the judo background. You have definitely more experience in MMA. I think your jiu-jitsu is better than hers. Striking, I think, is going to be close and competitive. Normally, the fights that she wins well are the fights that she just goes in there in dominant fashion and finishes her opponents. You haven't been finished in a fight in almost 7 years. So I think this is a really interesting matchup, and that it looks to me like they're letting Kayla go up in competition here finally. So what do you think? What's your feeling on that fight and what you bring to that matchup?
I think people always underestimate me because I'm not very muscularly built.
Right.
But that's fine. Fine. On the other hand, I think my strongest point here in this fight is that I'm a fighter. You know, I'm a fighter in life, and I'm a fighter. I always come out to fight. I always come out to finish. And the most girls are training on. They don't want to get taken down. You know.
Yep.
Oh, she's so good in judo. I don't want to get thrown. You know, I can handle to get thrown. Like if she throws me, I'm fine. You know, because I've been in judo so many years, and people have been throwing me, and I've been throwing people. So it's not something where I'm scared of. So I can go out there and just bang. And that's I think that's something what makes me a good opponent for her. Although people are saying like, oh, I'm gonna be killed and destroyed. Well, I hear that many times, and I'm still here, still fighting, and still always giving the best of me. So yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's going to be exciting. Obviously, I think you're prepared if she tries to throw you and employ her judo. I think that clearly you can defend against that. So I'm almost thinking that lately at American Top Team they're having her work her wrestling, but I know that you know wrestling as well. Obviously at 155 she's a big girl, and like you were saying, your ideal weight is 145, but still I think you're a very strong fighter. To me, I think a fighter fights for like 10 or 12 years. In the mid 30s like you, I think you're at a very good point because you're so experienced, your muscles are strong, your body's strong. I think this is going to be really interesting. And how long is this fight? Is this 5 rounds or just 3?
No. 3 minutes, 3 times 5 minutes round.
Okay, and so that's interesting. And so this is going to be in the tournament, or this is a match separate from lightweight tournament?
The tournament, but I realize because she has 6 points, even if I win, it will be very hard to stay in the tournament. So I just see this as like it's for me it's a world title fight. She holds the belt, I fight a champ. So for me, in my eyes, it's I fight for the belt, you know, and it's very important for me to perform well because, as I said, after PFL, I will not be switching organizations anymore. I'm not interested in the UFC at all or stuff like that. I love PFL. I love to fight for them, and I just want to stay in as long as possible. So even if I don't proceed in the competition, I see they have women fights set up next to that too. So I have every the fire in me burns still very hard because I know I can stay in this organization, and I love that.
Absolutely. It's a great organization. Shout out to one of the top PR people there, Tawny Cox. She is amazing. It was a great press conference today for the event that's coming up this Saturday, PFL 4. And I believe the one you're in is going to be PFL 5, or is it 6?
6.
6. Excellent. That's going to be fantastic. Are you doing any training, or have you done any training with Misha for this fight, or who's been helping you for this camp?
Rick Little has been helping me for this camp. I've been training out of his gym in Spokane, Washington. My coach, Cody McKenzie, coming over to train with me. So that's pretty amazing. And Misha also came out a few days, and we trained together.
Excellent, because she's got a fight coming up as well.
Yes.
And her return her comeback, rather. I think that's the best word used for it. A lot of people are excited about that after 2 kids. Speaking about kids, I was looking, you actually have 5 kids?
I have 6 right now.
Wow.
I just got a 5 months ago.
Wow. Because, you know, they say several women fighters have kids, but I wonder if you have the record for the most kids.
I have 4 biological ones, though. Like I have 2 foster.
Gotcha. Still, 4 is amazing. How do you do that? Because I still think even though it's different than 30 years ago or 40 years ago, but still today you find many women who have one kid or two kids, they find it very difficult to regain physical fitness, even a little bit. I think in America also it's a problem. There's so much fast food and nutrition is not so good. But how are you able to have 4 biological kids and come back to look like an athlete? And like you said, maybe you're not extra muscle, but to be still so fit like you, how can you do that? It's amazing. 4 kids.
It's hard, but I work my butt off. That's
Yep.
what I do. I work my butt off. And the kids train in the same gym as I do, so they spend a lot of time in the gym too, obviously. Yeah, it's something like if you want something, you can do it. You know, I weighed 112 pounds in the beginning of January.
Oh wow! How much was that
And
again? Tell me.
212. And now
Wow. Sorry.
yeah, back to natural weight.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Just determination. I mean, that's one of the things that I really give credit to you guys that are professional athletes. I've always been in martial arts and then doing small competitions in school in my life, but nothing anywhere close to competing or as a pro. And so I have so much respect for you guys. In fact, I really believe that the discipline that you have probably should serve you for the rest of your life. Like, let's say perhaps you're 60 years old and you gain more weight. All you have to do is put your mind to it, I bet, and you're going to be able to get back in shape.
Mine gained weight. I think I would look way better with some more weight, so I don't mind.
There we go. That's cool. But not 200. You don't want to be 200 anymore, probably, right?
No. That's because I had a baby.
That makes sense. Isn't Belgium has such good food, doesn't it? Like the wine and cheese and pastries like that, right?
True. We have very good food. We do.
Yeah.
Oh.
What is it that makes some of the food over in a place like Belgium and France and Switzerland and these places, I think, better than the United States? Is it the water or the milk, or is it less chemicals? I'm curious.
I think less chemicals, less sugars, and it's like still it's not perfect, but our apples don't look so shiny as here,
Interesting.
but we aren't allowed to use so many pesticides. We aren't allowed to use hormones. Like we have more regulations, I think. That's why.
Makes sense. And you know what's also interesting? The chocolate is so good in your country. Like I had someone bring some, I think, from Belgium, France, Switzerland, and so much better than what we can get in the United States. It's the difference is amazing. But it's got to be tough when you have such tasty food to not eat it. But I think you've been an athlete ever since you were a child, so you've always had the discipline. Of course, when you're pregnant, you have to gain some weight. But other than that, it seems to me most of your life you've stayed in good physical condition.
I try to, yeah. I try to. It's something. If you're doing competition, you have to. I get out of weight though, like many times. But I know when my fight camp is coming up, I just turn the button and I do what I have to do.
Absolutely.
And I'm very proud of the fact that I never missed weight as a female athlete in 22 fights. That's not very cool.
It's amazing. It really, really is. How many times has your opponent missed weight?
Oh, I think maybe 2 or 3 times, but I didn't increase. It was the last time I think my opponent missed weight by almost 2 kilograms. But it doesn't matter, you know. I believe if she doesn't cut from like 8 kilo or like 20 pounds above those two, 4 or 5 pounds will not make a difference. I think the best, if you're like really the best fighter, it's not a big difference then. It is a big difference when your opponent cuts like already 20 pounds, and it's a big difference. But if she's like, you know, not as good in cutting weight and she just naturally weighs a little more and you do your cut right, it doesn't really is a big difference.
That's good to know. May I get your opinion on a couple of upcoming women's MMA fights?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So this Thursday is going to be a very interesting fight. The pro debut of American women's Olympic and pro boxing champion Claressa Shields, and she's going up against Brittany Elkin. They make Claressa Shields like 3-1 favorite, which is a little bit, but maybe not as substantial. So the odds makers, I think, feel maybe Brittany Elkin has a chance. I'm curious your thought on this.
I'm, you know, I love Clarissa, and yeah, I think she's great. But I have Brittany in this fight.
Oh wow!
You only count the pro fights she has, but she has amateur fights too, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And she took off from her job to train. Probably, if she has like a good corner who prepares her properly, I think she makes a chance. Although I think Clarissa is great, but she didn't do this for years, you know. And some stuff on the ground, I feel, for example, is hard to get in your blood and in your bones in only 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different. Rounds in boxing are different. It's a different drive. It's a different strength. The grappling is different, you know. So, or she will have to KO Brittany right away.
Right.
What I think, because how many KOs does Clarissa actually have?
In her pro fight, you're right. Not a lot in boxing. Right.
Only two.
Yep.
She hits. Get me wrong. She hits hard, but only 2 KOs in her pro fight. And I saw her fight, and she's a great boxer. But she fought Femke Hermans from Belgium.
Right.
And that was a competitive fight. And,
yes.
You know, so she's a great boxer. She did a lot, but to call her the greatest of all times, I wouldn't know. She will have to. I hope she can make this sport even more glorious. But I think Brittany has a chance here.
Interesting. Yeah. I appreciate that. And then how about in the UFC? We have this weekend flyweight division is going to be from Scotland. Joanne Calderwood against the American Lauren Murphy. How do you think that fight plays out? And then a prediction if you have one.
I think Joanne is going to win this because she had the setback last time, losing because she was supposed to fight for the title. And
right.
She made a little mistake.
Right.
Got another fight in between to stay busy and got caught. And you know that happens, but that will give her more fire to do better now and like pay attention. She will not take it easily. So I think she's coming for redemption. Absolutely.
And then a fight that's a little bit down the line, but Amanda Nunes going up against Juliana Pena. Do you think Juliana can do anything with Amanda Nunes or not?
I believe with all my heart and all my soul, Juliana's going to win this.
Wow, that's right. Because, you know, I just remembered you probably are maybe a little bit of a friend with her because of Misha, or no?
Yeah, no, I train in her camp.
Nice.
I train with, and you know, fights. You say like styles make fights.
Right.
I just think Juliana is a hard matchup for Amanda. Like she pressures. She's you know, everything can happen. I think she has a good shot. I will not be. I think Juliana's gonna win this. I'm with Juliana like 100%.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. One other question: when Nunes fought Cyborg a few years back, I was always disappointed they didn't have a rematch. And
me too.
Right. Yeah, because I think this fight caught Cyborg by surprise. I think she thought this other girl would be a little bit intimidated by her and would stand back, and instead Amanda Nunes came out so fast. But if those two women fought 10 times, do you think it would be 5 wins for Cyborg and 5 wins for Nunes, or what would you think?
10 times. Yeah, I think it would go. Those can go both ways with them. That's what I think. But I think actually Cyborg would win more, right? Because she's naturally heavier, and that's what I think. But yeah, I am so sad we didn't see a rematch. I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, me too. I really was too. And also, the biggest of the big dogs, as they say in women's fighting, is the Brazilian Gabi Garcia. Now, you can see if you ever look at her Instagram, she looks like she's getting smaller. Her face is thinner. She's doing this dancing. To me, it looks like she's really trying. But she's so tall. I think 6'1", 6'2". Yeah. She's talking about Kayla Harrison. Is there any possibility, do you think this can happen? And I think, to me, Gabby has to come down maybe to middleweight. And would any of these girls be willing to fight her there? Because I don't know how much lower she can go.
I don't think, you know what, I don't think Kayla will take this fight, because everybody assumes Gabby is on steroids, and I don't think that she will do it. Although I have to say, like, I met Gabby, and I think she is an amazingly sweet woman.
Yes.
I like her. I actually like, yeah, I really appreciate her, but I don't think Kayla will take this fight.
Makes sense. You know, it'd be
unless if Gabby is willing to like go take a lot of tests all the time, maybe.
Right.
But then also she has to come down in weight a lot. She will not fight Kayla. She will not fight Gabby in her own weight class.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. The only thing I can think of is if maybe Claressa Shields has a lot of success, maybe down the line it can be Claressa Shields against Gabby. This would be such a crazy old school fight, but Claressa probably can come in weighing 170 pounds or something like this, and then maybe Gabby can guarantee to make 185. But it would be interesting to see. But I think when people say there are not so many larger women, I think they're mistaken if they're talking about 145, 155, maybe 170. But I think if they're saying how many women can be 185, 205, probably there's not so many. Or do you think there still can be?
They have to do like in the like they do with the heavyweights. Like, why don't they have a plus division?
Yeah.
So until like maybe 165, and then plus 165, like in judo, like in wrestling, like in every combat sport. Makes sense. And then bigger women can fight there, or women who want to go up from the like the 165 can go up there too if they want to, and if they don't want to, they stay at their own weight class.
I like that. The one crack that I've heard, which is like a criticism, is that I've heard some promoters, mostly male promoters, say, you know, we don't want to see a 190-pound woman with a fat stomach and fat on her body. Yeah. You know,
but that is bullshit, because they do want to see Roy Nelson versus a Mark Hunt.
Yes.
And it's not that they look so athletic either. And we're going to be very honest. Like, I am a big fan of Cormier, but he's not the most muscular guy either. But he's a great fighter.
Very true.
That sounds like crap in my ears.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, because I've been a fan for a long time. Not only that, but I think they don't realize there are women that are tall, 5'10", 6 feet tall, you know, that played other sports, even taller, 6'2", 6'4", that can look very good at. Yeah, yeah. Like some of these volleyball, American volleyball girls can be 6'4". Yeah, and they can be 200 pounds and look in great shape. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. Well, I'm excited about your fight. This is 155. You're going to be very strong. You don't have to starve yourself at all. I think it's going to be a fun matchup, and I think you're going to have a good time in there with Kayla. I think that you are a little bit of the underdog. Can we look, Dr. Adam Roorda? Let me have my producer take a look here, and then I'll ask you this, and then I'll let you get back to your evening. Let me see. PFL, is it even up the next one? I don't know that it's up yet. Okay, I think they're not showing the odds as of yet, but do you look at that at all ever? Are you a gambling woman? Do you like to make bets? Probably not, huh? No?
No, I don't look at being the underdog or not. I've been like mostly in my career, I always was the underdog, and usually I don't get how they get those odds. I will be the underdog in this one, and that I understand. But,
absolutely.
It's fine.
Are you going to be either in Misha's corner, or can she be in your corner for these next fights?
And she's preparing for her own fight, so she'll not be able. And I'm going back to my kids after this fight. I miss them so much. It's been very hard on me.
I can imagine. Well, I really want to thank you so much for your time, Cindy. I've been a fan for many years. I think this is going to be a very exciting fight, and I think that you're going to present a great challenge. I wish you luck. I think you have a good chance to win, and I am excited to see you do well, and would be happy for you to be victorious on June 25th in the PFL and against Kayla Harrison. Thank you so much for your time, Cindy. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye. And that was the Battle Cat, Cindy Dandois. Adam, it's really definitely interesting because Kayla's fought a couple of women that have a little bit of a record and that are big and strong and young. One girl took her the distance. Actually, two women took her the distance. One woman fought her twice, and the second time did even better. But none of them really have the credentials that Cindy has. Cindy probably is telling the truth when she's saying 145, even though she cuts a little bit to make that, but she's probably genuinely a featherweight, and this fight is lightweight where she is going up. So Kayla will be a little bit of the bigger girl, but Cindy has fought, I think, 2 or 3 times at lightweight, and in all honesty, I think this is without a doubt the stiffest test for Kayla Harrison.
I'm going to 100% agree with that. I think that they're really stepping up the competition for her, really in trying to build up for the Clarissa Shields matchup. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's what everybody's wanting to see, and I'm excited to see that happen. I know that Kayla was a little upset that she was getting this matchup first, probably because, in all honesty,
it's dangerous.
It's dangerous for her.
Yeah.
So she made. I mean, you got regular season and you got playoffs, but this could really tarnish Kayla's record and career if this ends up the way that Cindy sees it, the way that a lot of people do. I think Cindy has a real chance.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, because Cindy's last fight was a really close decision loss against a very experienced Caitlin Young, and
that was a great fight.
Yeah, it really was. And so had that not been a loss, that would have been a 5-fight win streak for Cindy. And as it is, Cindy has still won 4 out of her 5 fights, and so it's really interesting because here's what I think. Even though Kayla's the more decorated judoka, she's a younger, bigger judoka, I just think she's got to know that Cindy has so many years in judo and really was a decorated judoka herself. I don't think Kayla's going to think she can just easily throw someone who's a black belt and decorated judoka like her. So I think she's not going to try to do that. I think she may be trying the wrestling, which she's seeming to like a lot lately. But Cindy can actually do jiu-jitsu off of her back. And is not bad and is pretty comfortable doing that. And so it's going to be really interesting to see because Cindy is super, super tough. I think one thing you get, like I told her directly, is you get these fighters that have been pro fighters for a dozen plus years, and they're really rugged to be staying in the game for that long. So many training camps, so many hours in the gym, so many hours getting their head slammed on the mat and their ears puffed up and, cauliflowered and other stuff that, like, Cindy's, honestly, she's going to be in there grinding. She's going to have, her head down and biting on her mouthpiece. And Kayla is, I think, going to find that this is kind of like a different animal than she's been in with before. And, it's going to be interesting because Kayla's only had 2 women take her the distance. And I would beg to say that Cindy is definitely better than both of them.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting because Kayla seems to thrive when she's smashing women, and I could be wrong, but I just don't see her just smashing or tearing through the Battle Cat here, Cindy Dandois, like a hot knife through butter. Don't see it happening. No,
it's going to be a banger for sure, and I'm tuning in. I know that.
Yeah.
And so everybody that is tuned in, watching us right now, thank you so much. I see we've got quite a few of you across all of our different platforms that we are on. If you're on a Fight TV, make sure to go on over to the Hannibal TV. It's on YouTube. Give them a click the subscribe button. And if you're on a Hannibal TV, make sure to go on over to Fight TV. That's FITE.TV, and make sure to just put MMA Power Hour in the search bar. We will pop up. Colin, you're not supposed to. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was so thirsty. Continue. Pretend that didn't happen. Go ahead, Doc.
Breaking broadcast rules.
Sorry about that. I was so thirsty.
Well, we have our next guest ready to go here, so I'm going to go ahead and tee him up. It'll take us just a couple seconds.
We'll cue it up, Skype man. Dance. Let's get it rocking, man. Skype dance, baby.
Skype dance. Skype dance.
This is a lot of rings without any picking up.
And it's showing he's online. We're a couple minutes late, aren't we?
No, we're right on. We're dead on right now.
Oh, wow. Wow, I timed that right on accident. I love it.
Trying to Skype call you, mate. No luck so far. All right.
Okay, so Skype dance is not the most exciting for everybody always, and if we sit here and just do it over and over again,
petered out here, but I just let him know, and he should definitely be ready. Is it possible somehow he had some urgent call or
something must have popped up? It's showing he's online, so
okay,
we'll see.
Yeah, something must be going.
Step away and grab some food or something.
Yeah, that could be it. He's just. But anyway, I'm sure.
He said to call again.
Let's do it.
There he is.
Hello, Michael. Perfect. Got you. You got the video button and everything. Can you hear me clearly, mate?
G'day, guys. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Absolutely. Let me give you a proper introduction. We are live. This is the way we do things here, so let me shout it out. Ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to have this next guest on our show for the first time. I've been a fan of his for so many years. I actually thought of a sincere way to say this, which is that if you don't know this man, either you're really young and have only been watching the sport for a short time, or you've been living under a rock. Because this is one of the most exciting commentators in the world. He is the play-by-play television commentator for one championship, the man they call the Voice, Michael Schiavello. Welcome to the show.
Quite the introduction. Thank you, guys. Nice to be on with you.
You're welcome, and I really appreciate it, man. I tell you, I've been a fan of the sport for many years. We've been broadcasting for about 4.5 years, and I've been a fan from the beginning. And there are certain people that I just am such a fan of that it tickles me. It makes me so happy to speak to, and you're one of them. I watched you for so many years do your broadcasting in kickboxing, in MMA, when you were doing the commentating for LFA with Pat Miletich, when you were doing the Voice versus. I was a big fan of Inside the MMA, and I just loved when they would go to you and Pat, and then your interviews from the Voice versus were so amazing. And so I really want to let you know I personally am a big fan for many, many years.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So you've been in the game for a long time. You got in really young. It just seems like from the get-go, people were impressed with what you did. Even though you're not that old a man, you've been in this broadcasting game for about 30 years. And what made you, as a teenager, feel inclined to try to get out there as a sports broadcaster? Had this been something you had been wanting to do since you were even younger than that, and or when did that start? And tell us how that came about. That all of a sudden, as a not even an adult, you went out there and tried to start making your way and got some success right away.
You know, it was one of those weird things that sometimes life takes you on a path. The universe guides you down a certain path you're meant to go on, but you might not know it at the time. And when I was growing up, I never wanted to be a sports commentator. It was only when it came to when I was 15 years old and came to do work experience for school, and I wanted to be an architect, and I couldn't get into any architecture firms. And my mum happened to turn around one day and said, well, you've got a good voice. Why don't you do radio? And so I wrote to the radio station I listened to, and they said, come in and do work experience with them. And literally it was a light bulb turned on in my mind, and all my dreams of becoming an architect went away. And all I wanted to do after that was broadcast and media. So I started in radio and later in print. And then, of course, I started in television later as well when I was 20, 21 years old. Began commentating fights as a 20-year-old in maybe even a 19-year-old. In 1994, I first commentated kickboxing, did mixed martial arts. I think the first one was in 1996, and it's sort of just gone on from there. So I think sometimes, like I said, life wants you to go in a certain direction, and it'll find a way to eventually get you there.
Without a doubt. I love to hear the story about your mother as well. My mother was big advocate in getting my brother, when he was quite young, to go toward a career as an executive chef. And she gave him the idea. She actually made a first introduction. And of course, you don't start as an executive chef. You start as one of many cooks making salad or something that's quite easy, but it gave him a long career as an executive chef. If it weren't for my mother, I don't know he would have discovered it. So that's probably the case. I'm sure you probably thanked your mother quite a few times, because had she not mentioned you have a good voice and mentioning radio, perhaps you may never have thought of that thinking about architecture, right?
No, I would never have thought about it. And, you know, when I was young and thinking back, and I had to think back on all this stuff when I wrote my book that came out last year, Goodnight Irene, and to recall these stories. And when I was growing up, I'd always be commentating sports events out loud, imaginary sports events, football games and tennis games and wrestling matches in the backyard, while my mum was hanging washing on the line. So she would always see me doing these imaginary sports commentaries, but I thought nothing of it. I thought every other boy did this. It was just my imagination, you know, and I'd commentate these entire wrestling matches and make these wrestling organizations and make up my own wrestlers and do them aloud. And mum heard it, I suppose. And, you know, mothers have that great instinct about their children. And I guess, as always, she was spot on the money.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure she's been a fan probably your entire career. Is she still with us or no?
She is. And sometimes she'll tune in and watch bits and pieces of the shows along with my dad. They enjoy watching One Championship. And a couple of times back in the day, she came to some K1 events. She enjoyed watching someone like Mark Hunt. She watched Mark Hunt back in 2001 when he won the K1 Grand Prix Oceania version. So, yeah, sometimes she enjoys it.
Absolutely, I can imagine. So many things, man. Literally, as big a fan as I am of your work, I could probably talk to you for like 3 hours. And so I'm trying to rack my brain to think of as many things as I want to ask you. So forgive me if it seems like it's going to be almost random in the questions I throw out there, but I'm trying not to forget, because I'm sure, as you know, as an interviewer, even at your level, once in a while an interview ends with someone and you say to yourself, I wanted to ask this and that question and I forgot. So I'm gonna do my best, because I really appreciate your time. Okay, first off, a fight that I refer a lot of people to when I'm talking about someone who's meant to be a fighter, and that's also a fight that the finish was so exciting, but also the comeback. So the fight I'm referring to, and you were doing play-by-play, was probably about 10 or 12 years ago. It was, I think, either the first or second kickboxing matches between Errol Zimmerman and Badr Hari. And it was the one where you yelled out the big kibosh, which is one of your great sayings, right? As well as Goodnight Irene. But that overhand, I think it was an overhand right that Zimmerman landed on Badr Hari. That was insane. That had to be one of the hardest punches I've ever seen or heard. And Badr Hari hit the ground sitting on his butt. And most people would have thought that fight was over. If anyone else had, I mean, he bounced off the ropes and fell on the ground. And you were screaming, as I was. How the heck? I mean, the fact that he just sat there for a few seconds, shook out the cobwebs, and got back up at win. To me, I point out that's how you know you're in the right career, when you can get hit like that and get back up. But what did you think of that punch? Did you think Badr was going to recover and had much of a chance of winning, or what was your thought going back in time?
Well, it was the 2008 K1 World Grand Prix that happened in. It was the semi-final, I believe.
Right.
And I think it was a quarter. I think the quarter Badr beat Peter Ertz. I think it was Errol in the semi-final. But the thing I remember about it is a couple of good stories here. First of all, Badr came into that tournament as one of the favorites. He made it all the way to the final, and before he got red carded against Remy Bonjaski.
Yep.
For those that haven't seen it, I think it's probably my favorite K1 Grand Prix of all time. So if you get a chance to watch it, it's on YouTube. Watch the whole tournament. It was amazing. Did I think that Badr was going to come back after Errol knocked him down? Yes. Because the thing about Badr we saw throughout his whole career is once he got knocked down, he always came back stronger. Ruslan Karayev knocked him down. and he came back stronger. Errol Zimmerman knocked him down and he came back stronger, and he comes back to knock people out. It's just something about Bader. People can say Bader doesn't have a great jaw. True, because he gets knocked down, but then usually after getting knocked down, he'll get back up and knock his opponent out. The other interesting thing about that one, Colin, was that I remember Will commentating that with the late Kimbo Slice. And there was talk at the time about Kimbo maybe signing to K1. And I believe that fight in particular was one of the big reasons why Kimbo never signed to K1, because he saw a killer like Errol Zimmerman knock down Bader Hari, and people thought that Bader Hari was gone for all money. And then Kimbo sees Bader get up and knock the daylights out of Errol Zimmerman in this brutal KO. And I think Kimbo looked at that and said, "Nah, I don't want any of this K1 junk. I'm going to go to mixed martial arts. I don't want anything to do with K1 and Bader Hari and fighting these guys." So it's a very memorable fight that's always etched into my mind.
Without a doubt. I mean, there were so many great fights there, and I remember, I'm a few years older than you, and so I've been watching as long as you have, perhaps even a little bit longer, ever since I was a kid, and I remember just immersing myself in all combat sports. First it was boxing, because that's all there was. Then it was like full contact karate, which they called it before kickboxing, right? And then they had K1 came along, and then you also had like World Shidokan Open. Remember, where it would be 3 different styles of fighting, right? I still remember there was a Polish guy that kept winning that. I started with a K. I always forget the guy's name, but very tough. And then there was Kung Lee doing San Shu, and I would watch everything there was to watch. And then friends of mine would get VHS tapes from Europe and from Asia, and the K1s were so amazing, with people like Peter Arts and Ernesto Hust, and people like that, Andy Hoog, who passed away. Guys like Mike Bernardo, the Frenchman, Jerome Le Banner. I remember a friend of mine 20 years ago, and maybe it's because USA and France tend to have some rivalry in sports and politically, and I remember a friend of mine said, "There's only one tough guy in the country of France, and it's Jerome Le Banner."
Good point.
Right, but he was just super tough. But those were amazing matches, and correct me if I'm wrong, the K1 kind of had multiple fights in a night tournaments, a little bit like the early UFC, didn't they?
They did, 8-man tournaments. I mean, K1 started the same year as UFC, 1993, and both had 8-man tournaments. The first K1 tournament was won by the late Branko Sikotic. Branko passed away last year or the year before, maybe 2019. Beautiful man too, great man.
Right.
And it's sad to see that some of those legends from that early era of K1 have passed away. Andy Hoog died of leukemia.
Yep.
Mike Bernardo took his own life. A few of them are gone, but so many of them are still with us. Peter Ertz and Semi Schilt, Ernesto Hust, Jerome Le Banner, Ray Sefo, Stefan Leko, Milko Krokop. The list goes on of all-time great K1 competitors. And I don't think there'll ever be another time like it. Certainly organisations have tried to replicate it, but no one has, and no one will come close, I believe, because in its time, in its heyday, there was nothing like K1. Walking down the streets in Japan, the way those guys were mobbed like rock stars, the ratings on Fuji TV, the national broadcaster in Japan, the money those guys were paid, and just the marketing and the merchandise and all of it rolled together was just something extraordinary that I don't think will ever be replicated again.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they just had such great characters built. Peter Arts with that Dutch hunting outfit with the hat and the plaid vest,
Yeah, Peter was the Dutch lumberjack, and he'd come out with, he'd fight Mike Bernardo. And the thing was there, the guys used to play up on it. See, Mike Bernardo was a very God-fearing man, a devout Christian. And so Peter Ertz, when he fought Mike, would come out with 666 on his top and on his shorts.
Kidding.
Just to get inside Mike Bernardo's head.
Wow.
So there was also a very big psychological component to the K1. I mean, back in those days, the guys were fighting for like $400,000 US for the winner, which back in the mid-90s was
crazy.
Was a lot of money, crazy money back then. So, they'd try and get every advantage they possibly could over each other.
Without a doubt. I remember even before the K1 days, there was one Aussie, which was Stan the Man Longinidis. Remember him?
I do. A good friend of mine, Stan the Man. In fact, the first fight I ever went to was as a 15-year-old. No, I lie. 17-year-old, December 6, 1992. This is where my love affair with fighting, in particular kickboxing, started. It was the night that Stan the Man Longinidis defeated the great Dennis Alexio, who we know from the movie Kickboxer.
Yep.
Broke Dennis's leg with a single kick in about 14 seconds.
Yes.
I was there.
And that's amazing because I watched that fight live as well. I think it may have been a rare kickboxing or full contact karate pay-per-view. Was it like World Martial Arts Challenge or something like that?
No, that World Martial Arts Challenge would come later. That was a Christopher Cronus production. Christopher Cronus was the biggest Australian promoter at the time, who promoted all of Stan Longinidis' fights against Branko Sikatic when Stan fought Branko, Charlie Siachi, a lot of these guys that Stan fought back then. And later went on to become a very big fashion designer here in Australia, and still is, a fashion designer in Australia of a fashion line and fashion shops. But back then he was the biggest promoter, and that was the biggest kickboxing event ever. Still is the biggest one ever. They had 8,000 people, closed circuit TV, television around the world as well. It was huge news.
And that was in Australia, you're saying? I never knew that.
It was in Melbourne.
Wow.
It was at the old Glass House in Melbourne. It was fantastic. A lot of celebrities came out. A lot of movie people came out. Sports people were there. Alexio was there with his big entourage, including Bob Wall, who we know from Enter the Dragon fame as O'Hara, who fights Bruce Lee. It was an epic night. And so for me, what an introduction to kickboxing, to fighting, as a 17-year-old covering this event for radio and for newspaper, and seeing Stan versus Dennis Alexio, seeing Mitch Mandingo Hello versus Alex Desir, who went on to become a bodyguard of Madonna, seeing Michael Cobra Cole take on Darren Hedgecock, to see the late, great Hector Pena against Steve Vick. They were all there that night.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was incredible. Was that the night where Alexio wanted to fight with the Hawaiian grass skirt and they insisted he take it off, or was that the World Martial Arts Challenge?
That was World Martial Arts. So Alexio always fought in the later part of his career with the Hawaiian grass skirt. In tribute to his what was then his hometown of Honolulu, Hawaii.
Right.
The controversy was, though, that it's not proper outfit, of course, to wear for any sort of fight. But B, because Alexio was a master of kicking, particularly the jump turning back kick.
Yes.
Now, the jump turning back kick, you can see when someone's going to throw a turning back kick through the movement of their hips or their legs. Now, if Alexio is disguising his legs and his hips in particular with a long grass skirt, it's hard to read the early movement to be able to evade those kicks. So this was the controversy from many fighters that fought Alexio, saying he should remove the grass skirt. Also because, it's terribly distracting to have this giant grass skirt waving in front of you when you're trying to fight a guy. And the famous one where they made Alexio take it off after one round was his fight against Dickie Kimber. That's probably what you're referring to.
Right. Yep, Dick Kimber. Right. Yeah. Do you think, I guess there's no way to know, and Alexio certainly had confidence in his skills, but you wonder if he or his corner deliberately wanted to have that accessory to get an advantage, or could it completely have been random? It seems odd if it would have.
It would not surprise me at all, and I don't think there's any way that any commission should have allowed it.
Yeah.
It's just not fight wear. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Wear it to the ring, parade it around, take it off. Fight in commission approved fight wear, and that was not it. But then again, Alexio was was the biggest star in kickboxing in the world back then.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there are other big stars around, big guys like Maurice Smith, who was unbelievable, never fought Alexio. But as far as eyes went, eyeballs on TV sets, no one was bigger than Dennis Alexio at the time. And kickboxing was still a struggling sport. Yeah. So to put bums on seats and eyeballs on TV, you would sort of give Alexio a lot of slack. And he made a lot of demands. Even for the Longinidis fight, he wanted 12 by 3-minute rounds. He wanted shit in instep protectors worn. He took all the money. He took $100,000 purse, and Longinidis got zero for that.
Oh.
So promoters were willing to work with Alexio's almost diva demands. And I say that lovingly because Dennis was always a great friend of mine.
Sure.
Willing to work with him to make his fights happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I remember also, and I was just a bit older than you there, so I was a young guy as well. I remember being much more familiar based in the United States with Alexio than Longanides. And I felt that this should be a tough fight, but Alexio should win. And when the fight ended that quickly, I think the commentators maybe weren't hearing clear enough what was going on, but I remember there being a bit of a confusion. Certainly I remember it being an anticlimax since it ended so quickly. I think everyone, even the Aussies, would have probably liked to have seen a little bit more action, right?
Biggest anticlimax in kickboxing history.
Yes.
I still think it is. You know, to be honest, it was such a big fight. The thing was, for those that haven't seen it, again, YouTube it after watching this. YouTube Longanides versus Alexio. You'll see it there. Now, what happened was Stan was the hardest leg kicker in the world at that time. He was known for the leg kicks. Alexio was known for the old PKA style, ISKA style, throwing above the waist. So it wasn't Alexio's preferred rule set, which gave Longanides a bit of an advantage, although Alexio, I feel, was a better above waist kicker and a better boxer. And then Alexio throws a low kick Longanides throws a low kick that Alexio checks, his lead leg, I believe it was. And as soon as he puts his foot down on the canvas, he takes like a side step and his leg just snaps. It does the crisp and it snaps. And he's dropped and the fight's over. Now, the controversy was later a couple of theories here. A theory only. I do not want to point fingers. I will put it as a conspiracy theory only.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Is that if one is taking performance-enhancing drugs, certain performance-enhancing drugs, it can make bones very brittle.
Okay.
And if you don't check a leg kick properly, those bones can be brittle when you take on the hardest leg kicker in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is a conspiracy theory that went on for years.
Right.
Okay, as to what happened to Alexio that night. Conspiracy theory number 2 that was implemented by Alexio's team is that they said they checked the canvas, the ring mat, the day before the fight, and they highlighted a hole in the ring mat, in the canvas, that they wanted fixed. There was footage of Alexio bouncing around the ring, supposedly from the day before, with him and Bob Wall saying there's a soft part of the canvas, they need to fix this before the fight. Now, they are alleging that when Alexio checked the kick, it was fine, but as soon as he put his foot back down on the canvas, it hit that soft spot, his leg buckled, and his own weight crushed his leg.
It's so hard to know, right?
Third thing, of course, and the most obvious, and what's it called?
Conspiracy.
Is it, no, conspiracy. When literally the easiest solution is true. Occam's razor, I think it's called.
Occam's razor,
Alexio, the hardest leg, that's it, Occam's razor. Alexio did not know how to check a leg kick properly, and he was fighting the hardest leg kick in the world. One kick, didn't check it properly, leg broken.
Yes. Well, what I know is that he had an early loss in his career, probably 7 or 8, if not 10 years earlier, against Don the Dragon Wilson. And that was a matchup where he had not been familiar, well, probably wasn't quite 10 years earlier, but maybe 6, 7. He had not been very familiar with the leg kicks, and Don Wilson really used it to beat him. And Alexio, I think, was 7 or 8 years younger than Wilson, and so he was still kind of not his full size and strength. And so he eventually, actually somewhat soon thereafter, grew out of that weight division and always.
If I remember, that was the light heavyweight world title that Don Wilson beat Alexio. I believe he beat him in Florida. Alexio always claimed that it was a rip-off, that the hometown judges gave the decision to Don Wilson.
Right.
Don Wilson tells a story that he was so terribly sick with the flu, he wanted to pull out of the fight. And because it was in Florida and there was a television commitment and the big gate commitment, he stuck around and performed the fight and beat Alexio. They never got to rematch. When I interviewed Dennis back in '92, I said, if there's one guy you wanted to fight, who would it be? And I quote him. He goes, Don Wilson. And he said, Don Wilson's a pansy ass. I'd love to rematch that guy. In the street, or the ring. I don't care where it is. I want to rematch Don Wilson. It never happened.
Yeah, I remember that. And, you know, in Wilson's defense, not that he needs to be defended, I think when they fought, Alexio was maybe 26 years old or 25. And I think that he did get a little bit of that muscle density increase or growth spurt, if you will, that a lot of men get when we're 27 years old, 28. And I think the next thing you knew, Alexio was like a muscular 200 pounds and Don was still a 175 pounder. So I think Don just realized that wouldn't be a level playing field for the rematch, but still it would have been fun. But let me ask you, when Alexio fought Longinidis, Alexio was probably 5 or 6 years older. And my thought back then, not thinking about the performance-enhancing drugs, which is possible, or the place where he stepped his foot in a soft spot, which I never knew, which I really appreciate hearing. But my thought is it possible that maybe after 10 years of combat sports that maybe he just taken a lot of damage and his joints and things weren't as strong as they should have been or used to be? You don't think that?
No, I don't think so. I think Alexio was still in his prime. He was still in his prime when he fought Stan. I think it was peak prime Alexio. It was the right time. It was the right moment. Stan, locked himself in a training camp up in the hills here in Melbourne. Like I said, he fought for zero, absolutely zero.
Crazy.
To meet the demands of Alexio. Alexio wanted $100,000, and Stan wanted to fight him so bad. He said, "I'll take zero money, pay Alexio the whole purse. I just want to beat him." So Stan trained like a demon. He was so ready, so prepared. Both men were peaking. Alexio hadn't taken too much damage because he just knocked people out senseless. Hadn't fought, much with leg kicks at all. So, no, I think we saw two prime guys, and I really think it was just Alexio's leg got shattered by a very, very hard leg kick that he didn't check correctly, and it was just really unfortunate. It's like Weidman fight, recently. Just you don't check the leg kick, you take a kick like that. It's just unfortunate, man.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate.
Without a doubt. You could say that perhaps Stan accepted a Vegemite sandwich as his payment.
I would think several.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So why was that fight never rematch, never made? Really quick, and then we'll jump onto other things. But was that indeed Alexio's last fight? Is that why it never happened again? Or
no, it wasn't his last fight. No, Dennis fought many times after that. Dennis's last fight, I believe, was in 1999 against Gordon Miners of England, who he knocked out Gordon Miners. But Dennis fought many times after that. It never happened because I think that, both went on different career directions. K1 came along as well, and that was the big thing that took over after that because K1 came along the very next year. Maybe they tried to make it happen. I think probably both men had reasons for it not to happen again. Unfortunately, we just never got to see it.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of great fighters out of the continent of Australia with Australia and New Zealand. Mark Hunt. One of my favorite things was when you had a bunch of his people in his gym surprise him with a ceremonial haka. You had also the guy who was the movie star Aquaman. What was his name again? Yep. I can't believe I'm forgetting.
Jason Momoa.
Yes, that was amazing. That haka, wasn't it?
It was incredible. Mark has done us all so proud. And let me tell you a story about Mark. First time I saw Mark was backstage at the Crown Casino, 1999, where his then manager, Lucy Tui, God bless her, she passed away last year, Auntie Lucy. I was calling the K1 Oceania K1 event, and Lucy said to me, Mike, come backstage and meet my boy Mark Hunt. Okay, Lucy. Went backstage and met Mark, and there's this big fat Samoan dude sitting there listening to a Walkman, a CD Walkman, Discman.
Yep.
And, hey, Mark, I'm Michael, the commentator. Hey, how you going, bro? That was it.
Yep.
And I looked at my co-commentator, Mark Castaneda, and I said, I don't see what Lucy's so excited about this guy for. Looks like another fat Samoan's just going to get beaten up. Won't get knocked out, but he just get beaten up,
Right.
Then Mark comes out and wins his fight. I'm like, all right. It was a single match. I think it was against Chris Christopoulos, who was very well rated at the time. I thought, all right, guy's got some potential.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the year later, Mark comes to the K1 Grand Prix 8-man tournament and wins it.
Yep.
It's
amazing.
And, he wins it back-to-back. And he goes to the K1 World Grand Prix that year, and he wins the K1 World Grand Prix. And all of a sudden, he's the best kickboxer on the planet. And Mark Hunt had no kickboxing pedigree, no boxing pedigree, no martial arts pedigree. He was just a tough Samoan from the bad streets of South Auckland who got into a fight outside a pub one day, knocked a guy out on the street, and the bouncer said, "Hey, mate, you're pretty good. Do you want to have a crack at kickboxing?" And Mark said, "Yeah, all right. Do I get paid?" And the bouncer's like, "Yeah." Mark said, "Okay." That's how he started.
Wow.
Incredible story.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's amazing.
And within 2 years, he was the highest paid kickboxer on the planet in history.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. I did not know that, and I'm so glad to learn that because he's an amazing guy, just an amazing, charismatic, tough guy. What a chin. I remember Mirko Krokop would say right leg hospital, left leg cemetery, and I think he kicked Mark square with his left leg, and it did nothing.
Mark's jaw was just, Mark's jaw was incredible. The punishment he could take, the punishment he could dish out. I mean, go back and watch Mark Hunt versus Jerome Labano, the 4 fights they had. Go watch the one from the 2001 World Grand Prix, and 16 punches that he hit Jerome with that knocked Jerome out. A year that Jerome was the favorite. I mean, just incredible moments in combat sports history.
Absolutely. And I know also another Australian, I think it was in New Zealand, was Sugar Ray Sefo. I think he was New Zealand. Right. Yeah. And
Ray was from Auckland. Ray never won the K1 Grand Prix, came close, was a runner-up to Ernesto Hoost in 2000, if I remember. One of my best mates and a guy that's helped my career so much, and I love Ray. And, now he's head of the PFL, of course. Still doing, so much work for martial arts. And, what was he, a 6-7-time world champion from light heavyweight to cruiserweight to heavyweight. Ray was one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely. In fact, I've interviewed him about 3 times, I think, on this show, and the last time was about a year or so ago. And I remember we were talking about K1, and I mentioned Jerome Labanner, how impressed I was with him, and he very respectfully said, "Yes, that was a great fighter." And then I said, "Did you get a chance to compete against him?" And he said, "Yes, I knocked him out.
Yeah.
I knocked him out in the second round."
Didn't just knock him out. It didn't just knock him out. He gave Labanner the worst knockout of his career. You see, Ray had this technique called the step over right hand. It was taught to him by his then trainer Lolo Heimuli. So the right leg being at the back, left leg being at the front, he'd come through with an overhand right, but instead of leaving his right leg behind, he'd step through with his right leg. So instead of the punch ending here, he'd step through with his back leg, the punch would end here. So he'd literally punch through the opponent. He caught Jerome with his very technique, and he broke Jerome's jaw, I believe, in 4 places.
Wow.
It was one of the worst knockouts you'll ever see. Jerome crumpled. Jerome was never the same after that.
Wow. Yeah, just super talented. And I love hearing him. I think you and Ray, along with various other people as a third man in the box, did a lot of calls for K1, I think, or Glory, or both.
We did. No, we did a lot of calls for K1, some other shows around the world in Vegas and other places, but we traveled around the world commentating for K1, and we just had a ball. Ray's so passionate and so knowledgeable, and wherever we went, fans would just mob that guy. He was like a movie star brought to real life.
Absolutely. I want to get your opinion on some big upcoming events, but last, really quick, I was going to say, I can go back possibly further than you remember in Australian combat sports, although I think you may remember this, but you were quite young. I remember Jeff Fennick beating Azuma Nelson, and they called it a draw. And Jeff had won probably 8 rounds out of 12, and he said, "I'll fight him again right now." You remember that one? And then when he
know what? Yeah. And he did fight him again. And you know what year he fought him again? Was the same year that Longanides fought Alexio, 1992, at Princess Park in Melbourne.
Right.
That was the year they fought in Melbourne. 30,000 people there. It was a banner year for fight sports in Melbourne that year. It really was.
Absolutely. And people don't know, he had problems with his hands for years, being very brittle. And it was such a shame because the last time I think he was 100% as healthy as he could be was when he genuinely beat Azuma Nelson. By the time they fought again, his hands broke in the second round, I think. And it was just a shame because, that was his
Jeff is probably the most generally regarded as the greatest Australian boxer ever, multi-time world champion, beat Azuma Nelson eventually, beat Samart Payakaroon. Samart probably regarded as the greatest Muay Thai fighter of all time. Jeff beat a lot of great fighters in his day, and still a very revered figure in Australian sports.
I can imagine. I remember here they used to call him the small white Mike Tyson. You know, so
Yeah, good friends with Mike and trained a lot with Mike many years, did Jeff Fennick. And in Australia, he was known as the Marrickville Mauler. He came from Marrickville, Sydney, and that was his nickname here.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to know that you know that. Okay, I want to jump on some things. My producers are so excited to get your opinions on some big upcoming fights. So I know you're friends with Ray Sefo, and I know you're with the Awesome One Championship, and he's with the PFL. But love to get your opinion on their big card coming up. Coming up, you've got some interesting fights. Lance Palmer against Jesse Stern. You have Moffitt against Jenkins, Schulte against Manflo, and then the main event, Claressa Shields and Brittany Elkins. What's your thought on that big one? Claressa looks like she's getting some great training over at Jackson Wink, and is ready to just go in there and kill it. But the odds makers have her only about a 3-1 favorite. And our last guest, Cindy Dandois, says she thinks Brittany has a good chance in this fight. What are your thoughts in that one?
Well, first of all, on the whole card, I don't want to comment too much just because I'm not so immersed in PFL.
Sure.
I really enjoy watching it. It's a great product, but with so much on my plate with one, I'm not really too researched. I like to watch as a fan, I guess.
For sure.
But I want Claressa Shields. I like her. Fantastic boxing, bringing it to mixed martial arts. I think it's going to be a tough fight for her. Would I have her as more of a favorite? I watched the interview with Cindy earlier. I think she's right. I think it's going to be a very tough fight for Claressa. I do edge her as the favorite, though. And I see Claressa winning it. I see her winning it with her hands. That's how I think that'll go down. And the other fight on the card I'm looking forward to is Lance Palmer. I used to commentate Lance when he first started out in mixed martial arts. Was it LFA or RFA?
Right.
I always remember my accent. My accent was a funny thing with Pat Miletich. I'd say, Lance Palmer coming out to the cage, and Pat would go, "You got to say Palmer, not Palmer, Palmer." I had trouble pronouncing Lance Palmer.
That's hilarious.
So I'm hoping Lance does really well. But I'll be watching PFL because I'm a big fan of it, and Ray Sefo being one of my best mates as well, I think their product is great.
Absolutely, I agree. And then coming up on Bellator, Douglas Lima, Amasov, any opinion on that one?
I gotta go Lima, man. I always go the Lima brothers again. I go with guys for an emotional attachment, and because I commentated the Lima brothers in MFC back in the day, and they're just such good people as well, I'm going to go for Lima.
Absolutely. And now someone from your continent, Israel Adesanya. Love to get your thoughts on this, and then we'll jump into some one championship for sure. But so Israel coming off that loss. Go ahead. Yeah.
First of all, New Zealanders are going to kill you for saying New Zealand is a continent.
No, it isn't. I know. No, that I know it isn't. Well, but although the Australian continent and New Zealand part of it, but they don't like to hear that. I hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
He said it, folks, not me.
That's
Colin,
right.
Colin
It's up to me, but I know it's the Australian continent.
I got to go for Izzy, man. The last fight at light heavyweight, where he lost for the first time, wasn't a great performance. It was close. Wasn't great, though. It was a bit of a boring match, I thought. I think we're going to see classic Izzy again. I think Izzy is going to turn it up a notch. He's going to turn on the style, turn on the class. The timing, the striking, the length, the distance will all be on point. He cannot afford another lackluster performance. It wasn't a fan-friendly, entertaining performance last time, and I don't think he can afford that again.
I agree. It's going to be interesting coming off a loss, but he definitely looks like he's focused, and this should be interesting because Vettori is definitely an outgoing guy. There's a lot of trash talk, so it should be some fun. Two other real quick ones, and we'll jump into one championship if you don't mind. Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards, the Brit. This is such an interesting fight because there's a lot of haters of Leon Edwards, although his resume kind of speaks for itself, but for whatever reason, a lot of people feel somehow Leon's going to get exposed here for being not a top-level guy and not a great talent. I don't see necessarily that's going to happen because I don't think that's the truth. But what's your thought on that and how it plays out with him and Nate Diaz, who's just fought, twice in 4 years?
I think Leon's good quality. I mean, a lot of people underestimate him. I think he's good quality. I think this is going to be a solid, entertaining matchup. There's a lot going on, out of the cage, obviously, that we're seeing some trash talking and some social media stuff from both of them. And I think that's all part of the game plan when you're a Diaz brother, to get in that mind space. The Diaz's seem to have to get in that mind space where they've got to hate on an opponent. And some fighters do have to do that. You know, it's probably not legitimate hate, but it's like professional hate, I guess. You know, professional friction between guys. But the question you brought up, Colin, I think is the main, you know, the big, you know, sort of Damocles hanging over the head is the inconsistency of being in the cage, you know, only a couple of times over last 4 years, how it's going to affect Nate. Will he rise to the big occasion? We've seen him do it before, and I think he's going to do it again. I'm looking for a Nate Diaz win.
Interesting. That should be definitely a chance for people to make some money then, because he is the betting underdog. And wow, he's about 4-1 underdog. So that should be interesting to see. How about the Aussie, the New Zealander coming up with City Kickboxing, the teammate of Israel Adesanya? We're talking Brad Riddell in a really interesting match with American Drew Dober. To me, that's going to be a banger. Where if you were talking about right, it was going to be the big kibosh. Yeah. Someone might land there, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I've commentated both guys in the past. Brad, you know, fought one Super Series on the first one Super Series show, I believe. Brad fought, and I've commentated in kickboxing many times in the past. Been a mainstay of Australian, New Zealand scene for a long time. Dober I've commentated too. Oh, if Brad's on, Brad's on. If he's quick, he gets his strikes off, and he's on, and he's moving, and he's so hard to put away, and he can take punishment. You know, I can never tip against an Aussie or a New Zealander, so I'm going to have to go to Brad. If Brad's striking is on, and I think it will be, I'm going to go, you know, Brad Riddell for this one.
Very cool. Okay, so one championship. You've been with them for a couple of years now. Is that right?
Coming up to 4 years in August 2017.
Gotcha. And so I know that for probably a full decade you lived in the United States, then you went back to Australia, and now I don't know where you are, but can you give me the chronology? Obviously, you grew up in Australia. How long were you in the U.S.? Where did you go from there, and where do you reside now, at least as much as you want to share?
Grew up in Melbourne, Australia, still reside in Melbourne, Australia, but I did spend from 2010 through 2017 in the USA, living in Las Vegas, working for Access TV. Great times, you know, commentating alongside Pat Miletich for most of it. Also Guy Mezger, Frank Trigg, Jason Mayhem Miller, doing the Voice Versus series as well, commentating LFA, RFA, MFC, XFC, Lion Fight, all of it over there. And then returned to Australia to commentate for one championship around Asia beginning in August 2017. Haven't looked back since. Happy with the goals that we're kicking at one championship. Although, you know, COVID has thrown a spanner in the works, but we've done some great shows over the last year and a half. At the moment, taking a little break from shows until the Singapore situation calms down, and then we'll be back in full force.
Fantastic. And you're on Wednesday night here on American television, which is fantastic. And I can't wait until there's a U.S. event. And when there is, obviously, you know what you need in your passport and other stuff to come to the U.S. Will that be the first time you will have been back, or have you come back here at all since you left?
No, if it does happen, it'll be the first time I've been back, which will be nice. To get back to the US. I really do love the US. I love living in Las Vegas. A lot of friends still over there, so it'd be nice to get back there.
Definitely. What are some of the differences, in your opinion, between the Americans and the Aussies? I think a lot of the rest of the world lump us in together. The difference is a lot of people in the rest of the world don't like us, and I don't think there's anyone that doesn't like Australians. You guys are so likable, fun-loving. I don't think Australia has any other countries angry at them. But what do you think?
I don't know. China's pretty angry at us a lot of the time, but anyway.
Right. Okay.
They're angry at everyone lately.
Sure.
You know, I think that having lived in America, I think you need to understand Americans and understand you guys a lot. You need to live in America or really immerse yourself in America. Just watching the news and watching movies and TV shows does not give you an accurate representation of Americans, their values, their morals, their living situations, the culture that varies from state to state that I didn't realize before living over there and spending time over there. So I think you really need to live there or immerse yourself in American culture to really understand it. One big difference, I think, is Americans are a lot more conservative than Australians in a lot of their viewpoints, a lot of their thoughts. In your sense of humor, a lot more conservative than Australians. A lot of the stuff that I'll say in Australia doesn't fly or goes over the heads of Americans when it comes to humor.
Right.
So there are cultural differences. You know, we speak the same language. We may look the same, a lot of us, but there's big cultural leaps. And I even found there's big cultural leaps from state to state. I mean, California and Louisiana may as well be two different countries.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Even the taxes, the amount you pay for stuff, and the food, and the way they talk, and the way they act, and the law is just so different. So unless you've lived there and experienced that, it's very hard to understand it.
Absolutely. Now, tell me if this is true, and I know you'll give me your honest opinion. In the United States, if someone runs into someone from Australia and then runs into someone from New Zealand, most of us cannot tell the difference. And in fact, usually we'll guess, and neither one wants us to guess wrong. But isn't it virtually the same accent, or isn't it?
No, we can pick it straight away, and the New Zealand accent shortens their words even more if that's possible. I know that when I commentate on American TV, I have to slow my voice down a little bit, because if I commentate as I would on Australian TV, I'd be hard to understand because we clip our words very short. New Zealanders clip their words even shorter, and the accent on certain words like six, they'll say six.
Interesting.
You know, so it's fish and chips, they'll say fish and chips. So it's a little different in the accent. For us, but there are a lot of similarities, but for us it may be like picking an American and a Canadian accent. You could probably pick a Canadian accent very easily, but for us it's like, oh yeah, he's American. All sounds American.
Excellent. I love it. Well, when is, I guess there's no date for the next one championship event. I know you've just had several, but it looks like it's kind of pending, or is there any date coming up?
Well, we do have on Friday night Full Blast 2, which is not a live show. It's a pre-recorded show. Fabulous lineup. So make sure you watch it on Friday night. It'll be Saturday morning there in the USA. Saturday in the USA, of course, in the morning. Check it out. After that, no, we don't have any dates locked in at the moment. There's going to be an announcement from Singapore government next week regarding their COVID situation. Also, some other things are in the work I can't talk about at the moment, but we're looking forward to having a big second half of the year and really packing in a lot of shows.
Absolutely. And as far as coming to the U.S., can you disclose any talk that you've heard? Is there any chance? I know they said they'd like to, but is there anything you can hint at or that you've heard about a show in the U.S.?
I've heard there are discussions underway, serious discussions underway to look at, the U.S. as a potential venue for shows in the near future. I don't know where they're at with that, what's going on with that. All I know is that there is serious attention being put on the US as a potential venue, more than a couple of US cities that are being considered as potential venues. I think it'd be great for us to get in the US and do a show there. That said, though, our main market is Asia. That's where we are dominant. That's where we're the big guns, the number one, where our TV ratings are always skyrocketing. So just to reestablish ourselves in Asia, I think would be a big priority. But watch this space. There's going to be more news coming out very soon about venues and different cities and stuff where we might pop up.
Definitely will. Well, I'm super impressed with champions like Arjan Singh Buller, who we had on the show, with the amazing Lee family, Christian Lee and Angela Lee, and now their younger sibling. What was her first name again?
Yeah, Victoria.
Victoria.
16 years old.
Yes, absolutely amazing. And then Rainer de Ritter and Adriano Marias, and then still Demetrius Johnson looking to get back into it. You guys got some absolutely amazing athletes. I love the fact that they're not dehydrated and depleted. I think that's wonderful because you can embrace how healthy your fighters are, and I know that means something to you and you care about the fighters. And so great action. If people don't know one championship outside of the U.S., it's the biggest organization in the world. Michael the Voice Schiavello, an author, an award-winning commentator, one of the most charismatic and fun people to watch, someone that I look up to as an interviewer. And I just want to thank you so much for jumping on, man. You're one of my favorite people, and it just tickles me. I'm honored to have had the chance to chat with you.
Mate, thank you so much. I'm glad we could make it happen, Colin, and I appreciate it. And good luck with the remaining shows, and look forward to talking to you again, mate. Thank you very much.
Definitely, mate. I appreciate it. Have a great day or a great night, whatever it may be.
Thank you, guys. MMA Power Hour. Love it.
Thank you, brother. Take care. Excellent. Love the voice of Michael Schiavello. Dr. Adam Roorda, I think, is going to work to get our next guest on, but this guy is amazing, is it? I didn't have to say much. This guy was able
he's great at carrying a conversation here for both of you and me.
Yes, he is just so cool. He is just such a charismatic, nice guy. The energy, he can talk. The guy is just sharp as a tack, and I've been a fan of his for so long. It makes me smile. A lot of these younger fighters that I've only known for a couple years, I'm still glad to talk to them. But someone that I've been a fan of for literally like a dozen or 15 years, and then I get to talk to them directly, it's just, I feel like a kid. And Michael is just such a great guy to talk to, and he's really, really, really cool dude. He's been in the game for so long, since he was 16 years old, I think, which is a full 3 decades right now.
A nice long time. And for all of you tuning in that have been hanging in here for a nice long time for this episode, we do have another great guest popping in here in just a moment. Before we get to that, I want to go ahead and thank you so much for all the viewership. Make sure to head on over to Fight TV. If you're not on Fight TV, make sure to give a subscription to the MMA Power Hour channel. It is free. You can access it from your desktop or your phone, and we're on most every smart television, so go add Fight TV. It's FITE.tv, and we are looking forward to seeing you guys over there, as well as the other platforms. Make sure to hit us up on all of our social media. It's at MMA Power Hour.
Definitely check us out.
Let's get ready to go into that
MMA Power Hour. Feel the power.
Skydance. Colin and I are hitting stuff. Skype dance. Showing he's online.
Okay. He may be keeping it on, but he did say he would be running a little bit
That's
late.
all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
We've got some fight action to talk about.
Yes, we do. And I think
we'll see. He might come in.
Yeah, I still think we might get him somewhere in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, there he is.
Well, hey, Eryk, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Are you clear? I know you're just doing all the tests and the medicals and everything. Is it all right now? We chat for maybe 10, 12 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. I really appreciate you. You hit the video button. Fantastic. Let me give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, so happy to have this next guest back on our show for the second time with a big fight coming up this Saturday in the UFC middleweight division. This is a man they call your boy, Eryk Anders. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Really look forward to this fight, brother. This is a rematch of a fight that ended in an unusual way with the dentist Darren Stewart. Remind us how that went down a couple of months back.
Oh, well, I was, winning the fight and needed him in the head when he was on the ground. Kind of, maybe, very questionable, but Herb Dean ruled it a no contest, and that was back in March, and here we are in June.
Yep.
Running it back.
Was that on that same card that the same thing happened to Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan, or the next week or something like that?
It was the week after, but there was another no contest on this card. Leon Edwards poked Bilal Muhammad in the eye. He couldn't continue, so...
That's right. Man, speaking about the eye, what's your opinion on that, man? I know some people have shown some different gloves out there that have your finger arced forward a little bit so that it can't be stuck out straight. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, is that something that would work, or is there anything that can be done, or do you think the gloves that you guys have now are just the best you can possibly have?
Man, I'm sure there's always like options and things that you could do better. But at the end of the day, this is what we have now. So it is what it is. I know I fought for Bellator one time, and their gloves had a curve to them, and they were actually quite comfortable. Maybe that could be a thing. I don't know. I know Trevor Whitman has designed a glove. Supposed to be good for that, so I think there are options, but I'm sure it comes down to money and things like that. So
Absolutely, what they have to deal with or anything. Speaking about Trevor Whitman, is he someone you train with, or remind us where you train and who's helping you for this camp?
no, I would love the opportunity to train with Trevor, but he runs that Onyx lab, and I actually reached out to him not long ago before I started training here at Fight Ready. But he can only train 3 or 4 people at a time, so he was booked up. So now I'm out here training at Fight Ready.
Very cool. Who's helping you for this camp?
Santino DeFranco, Eddie Chaw, and Ray Waters.
Very cool. Some good looks and some good training from them. So was there any bad blood with you and Darren Stewart either before or after that fight?
Man, I don't ever have any animosity towards anybody that I fight, and I really don't care how they feel about me. To be honest, I'm just out here as a competitor. It's just the nature of the sport that we play, and people get punched in the face, kicked in the face, and we beat each other up. But after the fight's over with, I'm cool with just about everybody that I fought. So I don't know how he feels. But yeah, on my end, I'm cool.
That's good, and I like that because I'm a lifelong martial artist, never a professional fighter, but I really like when that respect is in there. I think that's something that differentiates boxing a little bit. Not that they don't have mutual respect in boxing, but it seems like in MMA there's even more of that respect, with you guys being warriors, essentially. Like, you guys are modern day samurai warriors in the fact that you do it all. It's like as close to a real fight as possible, and so I do like that. So you've been looking really good the last couple of years. I remember when they brought you in on short notice, your first fight against Machida, and you looked good then, but I think you're definitely an improved fighter from those early days, and I think you're even an improved fighter from 3 or 4 years ago. What do you accredit that to? Are you doing anything different? Do you feel any differently? Eating anything different?
Everything I'm doing is different, Man, Eddie Chaw, like, I never really understood like range and distance and stuff like that. And so all my fights, I just, stand toe to toe and, always be in that boxing range. But you don't always have to fight like that. And, I can attack from way further away. And when you understand that range and distance, you don't get hit as much because your opponent has to cover a lot of ground and distance as well. So, he's just been able to teach me and give me an understanding on range and distance, and it's helped so much with my timing and everything else that, I think that was a critical piece of the game that I was missing, because, man, I'll stand toe-to-toe and trade with anybody. But, that's not very conducive to a long career. So not only am I getting better, but he's going to extend my career as well.
Absolutely. And I know you spent a little bit of time at light heavyweight. Obviously, it's always fun not having to cut weight, but it seems like you're kind of feeling good at middleweight. And do you plan to stay here for a good little while?
Yeah, I think middleweight's my weight class. My last fight at middleweight was the easiest cut I ever had. So I felt the strongest. My stamina was great. Aesthetically, I look good. Probably the lowest my body fat has ever been in my life. And everything was just great.
Excellent. Do you know what position you are on the card? Are you guys like on the main card? Or are you like the main or co-main on the prelims? Or where are you at,
I believe we are the co-main on the prelims.
Okay, all right. That's not a bad position at all. What a card, man. Does it excite you to be on a card with some of these big names, or does it not really make a difference to you?
Yeah, the atmosphere is different. Especially, I think the biggest thing about this card is that we're going to have fans.
Yep.
And I think that plays the biggest factor into it,
And is that something that you missed during the pandemic? Are you someone that really likes the fans, kind of feed off that energy?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love them. And, they seem to love me every time I fight. It's always you know, a brawl and an exciting fight. So that's what they pay that money to come see, you know. So, you know, that's what I bring to the table. That's what they like.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I don't think I've ever been booed.
That's a good thing. So your nickname, your boy, do you ever find yourself calling up one of your friends on the phone? Obviously now people can see who's calling, but you ever hit anyone up and say, hey, it's your boy, so they know who it is, because you are the official UFC fighter, your boy. Do you ever use that or not really?
Yeah. That's kind of how I got my nickname. I refer to myself as your boy. I help your boy out.
That's cool.
You know, things like that. So, you know, it's just kind of stuck. That's you know, it's just my name now.
Very, very cool. So this is a big important fight for both of you guys, because I don't know as far as numbers, but I would think both of you guys got to be considered top 20 guys for sure, I would feel. And this one is just going to inch you higher up. I know you don't like to look past opponents, but as far as looking at what you'd like to do coming off a good win here against a dentist, are you thinking there's some people you want to try to jump in there with? Are you trying to get someone with like a top 10 number next to their name or something like that? Or what are your thoughts providing this goes the way you have it planned?
Man, you know, I'm just not really focused on that right now. Just thinking about the dentist, but as I sit and stew in this hotel doing nothing, you know, I'll take a look and see who's fought and who hasn't fought. There were a couple guys that I was supposed to fight in 2020 that I didn't get a chance to do. So maybe I'll fight one of them. I don't know yet. We'll see what's up. Absolutely.
And because the middleweight division, it's kind of muddled a little bit. You have Izzy coming back down against Vettori. You have Paulo Costa was supposed to fight Cannonier, and it looks like that's off, and Paulo's getting Dana White mad about with whatever he's talking. And then you got, you know, a Robert Whittaker who looked absolutely amazing in his last fight. Still, I know you have Gastelum hanging in there. You've got the other guy that beat no, he's light heavyweight, Jerry. But there's some guys up there, but a lot of guys that have been kind of in and out, and you know, I could really see you being in the picture with those guys coming off a win. Would you take a fight like that if it was offered to you, or do you still feel like you've got some work to do more before jumping on those guys?
I mean, yeah, I feel like to like earn my way up there, I got some work to do, but I've never said no whenever they ask me. So. If like some short notice thing came up, it was like, hey, you want to fight the number whoever? I guess, of course.
Right. You actually also got Jack Hermansson coming off that win over Edmund Shabazian. Hermansson is a tough guy. So there's some good fights to be had up there. What do you think about the main event? I don't know if you're a guy who makes predictions, or I don't know if you're sharing a dressing room with either of those guys, but there's a lot of trash talk. I mean, Marvin Vettori is a unique dude, man. He seems like he's the only Italian guy at this high level in an MMA promotion, and he's also the biggest trash talking Italian guy that I've ever seen. And he seems like he just hates everybody. And Izzy gets very mad when people get up in his grill. So I don't know. Is some of that promotion, or do you think these dudes are really genuinely don't like each other?
You know, I think Marvin's like an intense guy. You know, I don't think that there's very much anything fake about him or Israel. You know, I think Israel's obviously a little bit more laid back, but I think his wordplay is his trash talking is a little bit better than Vettori's, but I think their animosity towards each other is very genuine. Izzy's up 1-0 against Vettori. You know, like I said, he's a pretty intense and seems to be an emotional guy. So, you know, of course, that, you know, I'm sure that bothers him.
Without a doubt. You think that fight will look just like it? Sorry to interrupt you, Eryk. You think that fight might look similar to what it looked like a few years back when both those guys were younger?
Nah. I think Israel's grown immensely in this sport. I think that Marvin's only chance to victory is to wrestle, as I'm sure that after Adesanya lost the way he did to Yan, I'm sure he thinks that everybody thinks that that's the way to beat him. So I'm sure he's worked tirelessly on his takedown defense and getting back up and things like that. So I think he's going to be much harder to take down this time.
Yeah, that's what I think, because also Vettori is nowhere near as big as Yan.
And also, if that is his path to victory, can he do that for 5 rounds? I know he did against Kevin Holland, but you know, Kevin Holland is nowhere near the stature of Adesanya. So, and Adesanya doesn't appear to ever get tired. So, you know,
very true.
I think he's a tough cookie tough nut to crack.
Without a doubt. And that fight, other than yours, is probably the one that you're going to be most interested in because A, it's a middleweight fight, and B, it's a title fight. But what other fights, if I could ask, excite you on this card, if any? Are you also kind of a fan of the sport? Because like some people love MMA. Some people are watching all divisions, men, women, everything that are UFC fighters. Other people couldn't really care less that much if it's not their division. Where do you stand on that?
I watch every single MMA fight that I can, even like local promotions and the UFC and everywhere in between. Bellator 1,
PFL, everything, right?
PFL, yeah. I love the sport. I'm a fan of the sport. I was a fan before I was a fighter. I'm still a fan, and I'll be a fan long after I'm done fighting. So
very cool. Let me throw some questions at you real quick here for the last few minutes. PFL, Claressa Shields coming out of boxing. She's training her wrestling. She's in there with John Jones, Holly Holm, those people over there. With her athleticism, she's only 26 years old, but she's only spent 7 or 8 months learning MMA, but she's probably doing it every day. Can she come in there and beat a girl who maybe isn't a world killer, but has a lot more experience than her? Or how do you think that might go down this coming up Thursday night?
Yeah, you know, obviously she's got a lot of ground to make up in the grappling department, and every round starts on the feet, so she's gonna have to, like, whoever she's fighting is gonna have to get past her hands. And also just the way that she's built, you know, she's very, like, has really big lower body, so I'm sure, you know, she's a very powerful woman, so I'm sure her hips are very strong. So, man, it's not hard to teach a sprawl, but you have to develop that feel on when to sprawl, how hard to sprawl, and to see shots and things coming. And, you know, obviously cage wrestling is a new wrinkle. Yeah, man, I think that she could be successful, man. She, you know, she's a world-class athlete. And, you know, boxers are really good at moving their feet. I think, you know, when other athletes come over, they don't move their feet as well. So I think, you know, her coming from boxing will, you know, definitely help her and her. The footwork in boxing was really going to help her with her takedown defense because she's always going to be moving. She's never going to be stagnant. I don't think. I've never seen her box, but just looking at, you know, people who box, they always seem to be on their bike a little bit. So
absolutely. Which fights, real quick, are you looking forward to other than yours in the main event? We got Moreno, Figueiredo, the rematch. We got Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards, Jamal Hill, Paul Craig, the women's fight, Joanne Calderwood, Murphy, Brad Riddell, Drew Dober. What would be the fight other than yours in the main event that you think might be the most exciting?
Dude, I think they're all going to be exciting. I don't think they put together these matchups accidentally for this card. You know, I think that there's going to be a lot of finishes on this card. There's a lot of strikers. So it's definitely going to be a very fan-friendly card. And like I said, I'm a fan. So, you know, I don't think there's any one fight that stands out more than another other than the title fights. Obviously, Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards, they're like polar opposites in terms of personality. So, you know, it'll be fun to watch those guys get in there and display everything that they got.
Without a doubt. Do you have any prediction in that one?
I think Leon Edwards has more ways to win. He's definitely the stronger. He's been in it fight ready. You know, he's looking big, lean, and explosive. So I haven't seen Diaz, but I don't know. I think that Leon Edwards is the more technical guy.
Very cool. Where is Fight Ready based? What city and state is that?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Excellent, man. So you are right there, man. This is like a home field for you with fans. You have a bunch of people coming down to see you?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes away. So, yeah. State of Arizona, turn up for your boy.
Got to do it, man. You guys got to show up, and there's still tickets available. Eryk, really appreciate it, man. Can't wait to see you do your thing and go get the W over the dentist. Darren Stewart out of England, I know you can do it, man. Really appreciate your time. Eryk, your boy Anders, can't wait to cheer for you. Go get that W, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
You got it. Have a good night, brother.
You too.
Thanks. And that was Eryk, your boy Anders, fighting this Saturday, man. Always so cool, Dr. Adam Roorda, when someone will jump in 4 days ahead of the fight, still doing the weight cut and everything, man. That's
see the
big
sweat dripping off. Just
big respect to him, because
their
the energy has got to be so low because they can't even hardly eat or drink anything. And it's just cool.
I've been there.
Yeah, you know,
how it goes.
wrestling. Yeah.
Yep.
So big respect and thank you. And I'm going to throw it back to you. But I know that we want to thank, before I do, all of our guests in order of appearance. Cindy the Battle Cat, Dandois coming up. Big PFL fight in a couple weeks against Kayla Harrison. Thank you so much. Michael the Voice Schiavello, play-by-play for one championship. Amazing. Thank you so much. And then Eryk Anders of the UFC, big fight coming up this Saturday against Darren Stewart. So I know we're all both quite grateful for all of our guests.
Absolutely. Thank you all for coming on with us. And thank you all for tuning in as well. Everybody out there, you guys are absolutely amazing. We do love it when you guys interact. We do see almost every message. Interact. Hit us up. Likes, comments, shares. We love you guys. It's at MMA Power Hour. Also, when you get a chance, head on over to mmaph.nessishemp.com. Get yourself a bottle of full spectrum hemp oil. It's one of a kind CBDA product. It's the best formula on the market. I've been using it for months. Colin has too. I highly recommend doing it. It is a lot of people would say it's a little pricey for CBDA, but that's because it's not CBD, a normal CBD product. It's a CBDA product, and it's a very unique formula that actually works.
Yeah, without a doubt, really good stuff. You can smell the ingredients instead of wondering why you can't. With some products, there's going to be a smell when you have anything cannabis or hemp-based. And so,
well, hey, Colin, thank you for another amazing episode. Great interviews. You're always on it. And for you guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm tapping out.
Yep, Dr. Adam Roorda, and I will be the one, because I know he would have, but he's got a lot of stuff in his mind, to let you know we will not be here next week. Actually, in reverse order, thank you so much, Dr. Adam Roorda. Great working with you as always. You're amazing. Yeah, we are off next week. Dr. Adam Roorda.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick before I actually hop off. I lied, guys. I didn't tap out quite yet. Make sure, not this Saturday coming up, but the next, make sure to tune in to Tribute to the Kings. I'm going to be down there, and I will also hit me up on social media. I'll be doing whatever I can for live videos and trying to keep things going there. Hit up Global Stream Sporting on it's GS Streaming if you're looking for the handle, and we will keep you updated with everything. But the pay-per-view is available, and this is with Anderson Silva facing Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Make sure to purchase that over there at Fight TV. FITE.tv.
Absolutely. The doctor is helping to make that show amazing. Can't wait to see it. So thank everyone as I did. I also want to thank PR at One Championship, the awesome Tammy Chan, PR at PFL, the awesome Tony Cox, and we're going to put out some articles on the PFL press conference. It was amazing. Tony and her team did an amazing job. So can't wait to talk about that and look on our website. Thank you all so much. Spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl, and it'll come back to you a million times. Take good care of your pets. They love you, and treat yourself good. These are hard times, and you deserve it, all right? Big love to all of you, for the entire team at the MMA Power Hour. I'm Colin Crandall, and for tonight, I'm tapping out.